Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. We're in the Eastern Conference Finals, but we don't have an opponent because, I don't know, two other teams can't get their stuff together, Ray. And a fan of one of those teams, who wears blue and white, posted that, oh, if we were only playing Freddie Anderson, we could score 7 goals on 4 shots, which is a bit adventurous considering you can't get 7 past the 4th best goalie in the playoffs. So how are you going to do it against the first, buddy?
Yeah.
How you doing, Ray?
I'm doing great. That's a great sub-story to what the Eastern Conference Final could be, and we're going to get into all of that. Sadly, everyone knows how the show goes, and we do have a guest today, but something we have to get out of the way first. I know all of us here with the Storm Cellar, hearts go out to Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets. Life can be very cruel, and I cannot imagine the roller coaster experience that he had in the past 48 hours. His father dies suddenly, not 6 or 7 hours before the game. And that's, first of all, a shock. Then he's got the decision of whether he's capable to focus and capable to play. And he thinks, you know what, this is what Dad would have wanted. And so, yeah, I'm going ahead. And the boys, the Jets, gather around him, show him the support that he needs, and they come out and they play tough for him. Scheifele ends up scoring the first goal of the game for the Jets.
What a beauty.
It was a beauty. And your heart soars with joy for him because, you know, it's for his dad and everything's great. Dallas eventually ties the game, and this is a difficult game. 14 seconds left in the third. Dallas has a breakaway, and the only guy who can stop him is Mark Scheifele. And he dives and makes he took a heroic penalty that very close wouldn't have been had he got the puck first. If he had touched the puck first, no penalty. And it should have been called as a penalty shot. And I would argue that had it been a penalty shot, the ending wouldn't have been as horrible as it was. Because now he takes a 2-minute penalty and he sits in the box, and they have to get through a 2-minute penalty to spring him so he doesn't have to wear that. They get through the end of the third and they come out. 8 seconds left in the penalty, and Harley beats Hellebuck, and they cut immediately to the look of Mark Scheifele in the penalty box. And it was heart-wrenching. It was tragic to see it. And then Lowry goes in to the penalty box and pulls him out. He pulls him out of there and saying, "You're not here alone. We are all here for you." And then you see the camaraderie and the empathy that Dallas showed going through that handshake had to have been one of the hardest things that he had to do. And everyone at Dallas took time to offer their condolences. And it was so hard to watch. And you just feel for him and you feel for his family. I just had to get that out there. Things like that just happen in life, but they don't usually happen live for all the world to see.
Yeah. We say some things are bigger than sports, and in this case, there's an intersection there.
Yeah.
And we love our Ted Lasso, and it made me think of, season 1, you're going through a time right now, but the good news is you're not alone, and you could see that on the ice, even with with the stars and everything. So unbelievable for Mark Scheifele. I think now he'll have time to process everything, but you can't help but feel for the guy, for anybody in that situation. I mean, much less
anyone,
a few million people looking on. So
I'm lucky enough. My dad is still around, and I'm lucky that way. For that to happen to him, and just to be in front of it all, just it's unbelievable. So I know that's a terribly difficult and sad way to start the show, but we needed to get that out there for him because the right thing to do, and we wish him and his family well.
Family first program.
Always. Now, we put that aside and we get to focus on what we do best, and that is have wonderful guests join us to talk about the Hurricanes. And Brad, you've got a history with our guest through a building.
And tangential history, right? Extended family, if you will.
Yeah, extended family. And normally you let me be the one to do the introductions and so forth, but I seem it's more apropos if we get you to do the introduction and we'll go from there. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Rialto Theater in 5 Points, Raleigh. For 2 years, over 2 years, I worked security every Friday night at midnight for Rocky Horror Picture Show there. So it was Lily's Pizza, walk across the street, go to the Rialto, keep a mostly teenage crowd that were sometimes inebriated off the street, out physically out of the street, and get them in the building. And then when things let out, stand between them and the preppy bar next door and just keep the two groups 10 feet apart. But it was a ton of fun. I did wonderful members of the Rialto. After it closed, a lot of us felt really, oh no, that's a historic, right? That's key Raleigh. But Hayes steps in, buys it, brings it back, and has been killing it on Instagram and social media.
Oh,
right?
Man.
Hey, Caps, enjoy the Outer Banks. Let's go Canes. Neighborhood, 5 points. Ovechkin, 1 point. Raise up, all are welcome except Tom Wilson, who seemed really upset by that because he was he's kind of a crier though, but welcome Hayes. Friend of friends of the show, Mike Solarte is a great friend of ours. We've claimed him as our own expert. Other shows, we try and keep him away from them, but welcome, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. I want to hit on a lot of things that you guys have already hit on. First of all, acknowledging love how you guys started. Family is like a huge thing. We'll talk more about this, but I'm more of a Canes fan than a hockey fan. But obviously, you guys are dived into the world, and so I come to sports as as one of those people who observes the world through the lens of sports. I see sports as theater. So moments like the one you described, although tragic, and obviously you care for the people, it's that's what I come for, right? It's seeing people that under normal circumstances in 1 second would punch each other because that's what the game is for, and in the other being the people that would pick somebody up because that's what life is about. So very cool. And then Brad, I hate to, I don't mean to minimize or trivialize your experience, but it is incredible how consistent this has been. I say everyone who's lived in Raleigh has a Rialto story. So yours, you saying it was Friday nights,
absolutely,
this and that, that's yours. Some people it's I went on a date with my wife there. Some people, it's, I did such and such for the first time there at but truly that's been one of the coolest parts of being fortunate enough to sort of run the place now, is having people. Sometimes it'll be people that aren't even coming to an event. They're just going to the bus stop. But they feel the need to stick their head in and be like, "Man, my dad used to bring me to kung fu shows here in 1974." It's like it's that type of place. It has.
I want to go to kung fu shows there.
Yeah, there were in the 70s.
Shaw Brothers, Brother movies. That would have been awesome.
100%. When it was called the Colony, they were doing kung fu and then another genre of film that you used to have to pay to go to a movie theater for, but now you can get free on the internet. Gotcha. And so after that, it was called the Colony, and then it rebranded to the Rialto when somebody decided our reputation has gotten a little seedy. We needed a new name. So, nice. But yeah, it's great to be with you guys. Always cool to be talking to Canes fans when our team is still in the playoffs at this time of the year. So
right. And secondarily, I did make this connection. Somebody pointed out to me, they're like, "Oh, he's the Channel 8 dude." And I'm not in the area, and I'm like, "The Channel 8 dude." And they're like, "Jacob with 2 C's." And I was like, "Oh, that guy."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I spent some time in sports media, and I always sort of wanted to be, again, I was never a X's and O's guy, break it down. I respect those people. I watch those people, but I was always more like, how can this be fun? Like, how can we do a song parody or make a joke? Sometimes at your own team's expense, because like that's funny, right? Like laughing at your own team, or doing the wrong thing. I hate fans who are like, you can't make fun of our own team. It's like, nah, we make fun of everybody, right?
Oh, you wouldn't like some of the people we know online. They don't like it when we're honest about stuff.
It's crazy. We now have a pretty substantial volume of like Canes songs. We've personal ones we got 2 Jacob Slavin songs. We've got a Svet song. We've got a They Screw Rod song. We've got an Aho song. So yeah,
I don't know if it's in the chat for you because I posted it before you joined. But I'm just saying, I've written the whole first verse to Svetch Gonna Give It to You. Okay. Based on DMX. I'm just saying I have a whole first verse already done, but I don't sing, or you don't want to hear me rap for sure. But I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to do something and just needed somebody to write the lyrics,
all right,
it's already done, man. You should see it. It's pretty good.
Rap songs are even harder to parody because there's so many more words, and I, like a perfectionist, I feel the need to like match the words with the syncopation and the cadence. If you go look it up, we did a Caniacs, Tom, naming all the Caniacs when Trip was doing that a couple years ago. And like, if you go line it up with P.D. Pablo, I worked very hard to get the rhythm right,
Yeah.
Rap is sometimes even harder than any other song, but I'll look at it.
You had like a Rod the Bod song, I think it was. That was amazing. That was my favorite.
And back 7 years ago now, we did, instead of Thank You Next for Ariana Grande, we did Thank You, Svetch. Thank you. So we've got that one. Yeah, it's a good.
So where do we start? So as someone you said who looks at sports as a lens through which to view the world, which I think is phenomenal because people put so much into sports. We've built sports into something bigger than they are. So I think it's fair to say that's a great way to look through, through life. Like, what got you into that? Was that just something you always were into? Was it like a mom or dad thing, or was it just like a circumstance? Like, how'd you, what kind of got you rolling on your sports journey?
It's a great question. I grew up with 2 older sisters who weren't very into sports. I think my parents understood sports as, a cultural thing, right? I guess, is it second generation Raleigh? If my parents moved to, I've lived my whole life here. I knew nothing else, but my parents moved here just a few years before I was born. So their worldview is different from mine. But to me, my mom still lives in the same house that I was born in Raleigh, right near the Rialto.
That's great.
And so my mom's father was a big sports guy. He, refereed high school sports in West Virginia and drove down to watch the Pirates in spring training when spring training was still a huge thing in Florida, and then I was, and still am, I'm a theater guy. Like my family was big in music and theater. And I think that's part of what made it, more than just, these are people competing at athleticism. And again, I'm not taking anything away from my sisters. They're great, but I grew up around, the neighborhood boys who were like, let's go play some hoops. Let's play some. If we got 4 people, that's enough for 2-on-2 football. You know what I mean? Every day I'm trying to sneak into the church gym and play. So sports was a way to fellowship with people, to do things. But I think watching sports for me, it's a lot closer to theater than I think people realize. And I always describe, here in the Triangle, I could make the same comparison to Rod Brindamore, but I used to say, Coach K, when somebody gets his order wrong at the restaurant, he doesn't stand up and get in the guy's face and is like, "This is you screwed this,"
Yeah.
He knows he is performing as part of a presentation to do what he's doing, right? And I'm not taking away from him. I'm not saying he's a fraud. Like, everybody who's involved, we just talked about it. The art of like fighting in hockey versus the handshake line. Like, these are people that know that they are kind of performing in a theater. It's unscripted. I'm not saying that it's WWE. Like, obviously when they're playing, it's completely unscripted. But there's a way you handle yourself. You tap your sticks after somebody gets in a fight. You know what I mean? Like, that's not normally what you do when your friend gets in a fight. Like, it's either, screw that guy or whatever. So there's a very theatrical aspect about sports. People know that these are sports being watched by other people, and there's a purpose to what you're doing. And I find that fascinating, right? Because you'll never get an athlete to say, "Oh no, I'm acting," and I'm not trying to make the point that anything is scripted, but there is an element of, they know they're on stage. Same with fans that end up on the Jumbotron. You act different when you know you're on the Jumbotron, right? Like, you're either going to dance or do the song or like kiss the person next to you if that's what they tell you to do, right?
Yeah.
So you might not do that. So I've just always been fascinated by sports as kind of theater, and love the things you can. That's what's great about sports. That's different from theater. My favorite moments in theater are when something goes wrong and all of a sudden the set piece doesn't move and the actor has to like casually walk around the thing that's not supposed to be there, and you're like, wow. What an incredible moment where that person is so trained at what they do, but still could improv enough to do that. Sports is like, way more of the unscripted. With the scripted are the moments, the handshake, the stick taps, all those things. But the unscripted moments are just as powerful, and how people react to them. So that's always been what's drawn me to sports.
And to your point, that's one of those things that I think people may not recognize about sports always, but they inherently get. For example, like, oh, I wish somebody would give a good answer in an interview, right? You always get the same cliched answer. Like, yeah, it's because it is kind of a production. And one of the things I know Caniacs have asked for is, they're like, please don't send Jarvis and PK to media training. Like, Jarvis is a gem because Jarvis doesn't seem to realize like that he has to put on, professional Jarvis versus Ray. He's just Jarvis.
Yeah.
Right? And Pyotr's kind of the same way, and man, I hope Nikishin's the same way. But yeah, that's what makes it fun. That's why that first season of Amazon's, I forgot what they called it now, the All or Nothing on Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, it was interesting. I'm glad they did hockey, but it wasn't exciting because it's all the things that you would expect to see. And then for season 2, they're like, oh, one of the people we're going to follow is Seth Jarvis, and you're like, jackpot. We're going to get some, like, there's going to be some good moments in that. There's going to be some horrible things. There's going to be some stuff where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe Seth Jarvis has said that. Like, that's phenomenal. What's up, Ray?
I just want to say, I love the lens in which you watch this game. People can get so tied up emotionally on the team or the players and so forth. And to see it that way, it's funny. All of the promos, the commercials that you see highlighting the NHL playoffs and stuff, that's what they're reaching for. They're reaching for the theatrical aspect that you see first. And I think that those exciting ads that you see and the videos that they put up at the start of the game to hype up the fans, right? That's all theater, and it's all meant to tie you to your heart and give you those goosebumps. I mean, I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about the way that you see the game. And I love when our fans are able to bring different perspectives in, because guys like Brad and I, who have been tied to this team for years and years and years, you can lose that, right? You start in on the X's and O's and you whatever, and the emotions of your team losing or winning, they overcome the theatrics of, like, you don't care anymore what happened during the series or how they did it.
My own show.
No, but that's what I do too. It's what all fans do. The long-term fans, they just want to win, and they don't think about what they're actually watching. And to see the game your way, man, that's beautiful.
Do you guys ever go to stand-up comic nights? I know I'm not going to go too far off the beat, off the beaten path, but
yeah, sometimes love it.
To me, I love comedy, and like the number one most entertaining thing would be to see a comic on the top of her game crushing it. Right? I love to see Nikki Glazer's roast. I'd love to see Nate Bargatze right now on tour. Like, that's number one. Number two to me is like an open mic night, and it's not. I promise you, I'm not there to see people fail. Much like I don't want to see my team lose, but yeah. I will be entertained either way, right? And like I live for the guy who, like, wow, that joke was incredibly well written, and you haven't learned how to perform it yet. But like seeing the awkwardness, or like, again, I don't cheer for this, but seeing a person like kind of die on stage, you're like, wow, it makes you appreciate all the other people who are getting there and succeeding. I'm not laughing at the guy who's failing, but you're like, this is human drama, right? And like this person, right. They volunteered to put themselves in a position that like 90% of the world would be like, I would never do that. I would never stand up and be like, I'm going to try and be funny. So like, I can appreciate, and I wish I could tell every person like, hey man, you bomb, but I hope you keep at it if this is your thing. But like this was rarely do you get to see a person in that situation. So it's the same thing. If the Canes lose, I'll be devastated, but I'll be riveted to see. Guys like Rod Brindamore, who now knows he's one of the best in the world and has to deal with people being like, oh, I don't know, maybe you can't coach Eastern Conference Finals games for some reason. I'll be entertained and still sympathizing with people who lose or people who get hurt or people who lose their fathers, to our points earlier. Like I could feel those things and still be like, but it still is all kind of entertaining to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And to Ray's point, because I swear Ray targeted me.
No,
game 3 of the Devil series, we went down 0-2, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And I was so mad at how poorly they were playing. I turned off the game. I walked away. Ray's like, dude, it's overtime, and I'm like, whatever. Like I'm seething at the way they were playing and not just enjoying the comeback. And then they win in OT. I was mad until Sunday, game 4. Like physically. Was in a bad mood for like 3 days, and they won because I've been watching hockey since, hardcore since 97. Like since the team moved, I've been a hardcore. Before that, I had a couple years I was really into the Ice Caps. Before that, I watched occasionally. So it's been almost 30 years for me. And I was not seeing the forest for the trees, so to speak, right? Because I was just like, who cares if they won? Like, how do you come out in a playoff game and play that poorly for 20 minutes? Like, I'm mad about the X's and O's piece and didn't step back and go, Brad, they're the better team. It's not even close. Like, they can come back and win this, in which they did, and I still was mad for like 3 days.
But even that's fascinating. I was at that game, but I'm the same way. You're like, how can a team be better and look like this? Like what is it? Like you're like, was the pregame meal truly like too carb heavy? Like is it down to that? I always go to I've been inside sports enough to realize like these are real things, especially in college sports, which we talk about a lot. Is like, you don't know which dude's girlfriend dumped him 2 days ago. You know what I mean? Like you're out there being like, why are we doing this? And like, dude, life is happening for these people outside of the minutes you see them. It's like, not to beat it. I was well, whatever. Actually, I'm not even going to make that analogy. But you like that is fascinating to me. When they're playing so bad, you're like, what happened, guys? Like, did somebody show up late? Did the trainer not get there?
How are you up for this? I'm up for this. I've been up for this for 12 hours. How are you not up for this? This is a job, right?
That's so great. I love the way you see the game. This is so awesome.
Well, I'm like you, Brad. I don't consider myself a hockey fan because I think that would be offensive to hockey fan. I am 100% a Canes fan. I'm a huge Raleigh guy. I'm a fan of the city of Raleigh. I think it's super cool. As we can get into whether or not I'd want a baseball team here, but there's something cool about being a one professional sports town. That's no disrespect to the Courage or the NCFC, but we consider certain sports on like a higher tier. Like Courage are obviously amazing, but of the major sports that we consider, being a one sport town is kind of cool, and especially when it's that random sport that none of us, when I say us, I think people over 40 who grew up in Raleigh, none of us grew up playing, and we all have different tribes as far as our college teams. So it's this one sport that none of us even really know that we all just sort of went in on. And Brad, to your point, the ice caps being here was obviously a huge thing. So I was an ice caps guy. And so I came to hockey the same way I came to like minor league baseball. Like, this is, a fellowship event. I'm going with some friends. Ice caps games. You can make fun of me for being an amateur hockey guy, but I was like, let's see 3 goals and 4 fights. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like that's what I wanted.
That's a pretty standard ice caps game.
Yeah.
Like that's the right ratio. I feel like more fights than goals.
Yeah, and I wanted the blimp to drop tickets on me, like that, like all the minor league things at Dorton Arena. And even still, I'm definitely more knowledgeable about hockey than I ever would have if life hadn't dropped an NHL team in the town I chose to, or was picked to grow up in, have chosen to live in now. But now there is an element of I learned more players. I learned more about the game. Most of the players I know are ones who have played against the Hurricanes in the postseason, because then I've like seen them like 6 or 7 times. So I know who Brad Marchand is if we face the Panthers. But I am I'm definitely. I listen to Ovius and Giglio, sort of local sports podcast, and Giglio talks about the difference and not judging either side. But there are hockey fans, and then there are Canes fans. I am definitely a Canes fan. You can make fun of me and say I don't know anything about hockey. I've learned some. I know a little bit better I'm not quite to the point where I know what I'm talking about when I argue the minute details of a call, but most of the times I know what the call is, right? It's not like a block charge where I feel very comfortable being like, no way, that was a block. If they call it, if I'm still on, if it happened against the Canes, I'm like, well, then it was a bad call, But at least I know kind of what they're calling. I know a little bit of strategy. I know positions, things like that. So
we've had Joe Ovies on the program right after he was let go, before they started the podcast, and he was great because he's a professional. And we asked him questions. I think he was pretty gentle with us as amateurs. But the other day, somebody was giving him a little bit of heat because they tend to put things in like a basketball context.
Yeah.
And this is not meant to be a pejorative, but like for people like yourself, right, who maybe don't know everything, but if they could give you an analogy that works. And I agreed with the person making the point. It's like, it's been 25 years, but at the same time, one of the things Ray and I go back to is everybody starts on as a bandwagon. Everybody gets the first game and they get a touch and they're not into it yet. And then, all of us started as bandwagon fans. And that's what I think Joe and Joe are trying to do in part, is make hockey relatable to people who still aren't watching. And it's Tobacco Road. Like, I grew up playing basketball. We played basketball 300 days a year as a kid. So using those kind of analogies and all, I think, is a smart way to do it. As a hockey guy, I'd love for that not to need to be the case, right? It'd be great if we were Toronto and every kid from the age of 5 or 6 knows hockey. But we're not there, but that's not a detriment to the city. That's not a reflection of the people who are fans, if that makes sense. Like I think the Caniacs, we may have fewer NHL fans than we do just Caniacs like yourself, but the Caniacs we have are every bit as committed as any other team in the league. I will put Caniacs up against Toronto. I will put Caniacs up against Montreal, up against Chicago, Boston, Detroit, any of those teams. 100%, I would put our hardcore fans up against theirs. Do they always know all the little minutia X's and O's? No, but neither does the NHL. Watch any game, and you can tell the refs don't know half the time because it should have been a penalty shot last night, in my opinion.
Yeah, it absolutely should.
Goaltender interference. Like, if the league doesn't know the rules, then you can't expect the fans to know the rules and how they should be applied. So,
and I'm just going to circle back to something that Hayes said, and the one thing that really stands out for me, there is no way at all, ever, that you could put 18,000 people who cheer for the Tar Heels, the Blue Devils, and the Wolfpack in the same building and have them all cheer for the same thing. Like, that is what is really unique about this, because and as far as Canada goes, looking at this, it's football, basketball that rules. And we know enough that in North Carolina, it's college basketball. Like, that is king. And to have everyone brought together, it's unfathomable.
Yeah.
You couldn't write it better. And that's the way it is. And that's what's so unique about this.
Well, a little like Brad was saying, we might not know hockey 100%. We know how to fan. We know how to be good fans, right? Like, that never had to be taught to us. And I think that's what people miss out on some, is like, oh, we can fan. Like, we're, and we fan better at hockey than we did 25 years ago. Ovius was showing, I think 1999 was maybe the Canes' first playoff run. And he was looking at a program from there. And truly, like, in the first page of the program, we're like telling you the parts of the ice and the equipment on the stick. And like, that's not in the program now. There's we have evolved some. And yes, we're always going to catch a little heat for it not being, in our blood the same way it is in Toronto. But being a sports fan, we know, like Toronto, you don't do that better than us, or like Ohio with football, you don't sports fan better than us. You do that sport better. And Europe, you don't sports fan better than us. You soccer better than us. But like, we're here, we know how to fan, right? And so I think that's the common thread.
I can't even tell you how much I love that. That should be your next sign. To switch gears a little bit.
We don't know. We may not know hockey, but we know how to fan. Something like that.
We know how to fan.
We know how to fan.
What's cool to me too is, again, having grown up here, one of my I'd say childhood, more like one of my high school friends, a guy that I became close with in high school, and I'm still good friends with to this day, a year ago was named CEO of the Carolina Hurricanes, Brian Fork. This is a guy who grew up in Raleigh like me, never, like, at 13 years old, this man would never have dreamed that a NHL team would be in his hometown, right? Now, he was absolutely an early adopter. I'm pretty sure he went to Greensboro. He's been to season ticket longer, but he knew how to fan. He had been a NC State tailgater, football, hardcore, ride the roller coaster, So it's like, if you want to come in and be like, oh, your CEO is a guy who like doesn't even know how to ice skate, fine. But this dude knows what it's like to be a fan and know an area, know the people around here.
That's like Eric Tulsky, right? It's Eric Tulsky, I'm fairly certain, has never played ice hockey.
Yeah.
But he understands ice hockey, and there's a difference. Yeah. And the worst people, and Ray, I'm going to pick on Canadians for a minute, because
that's fine.
Comes a lot from Canada, is, you can't talk because you didn't play the game. And it's like, well, you may have played it. Maybe you played juniors. Maybe you played in college. Maybe you played major juniors. But did you make the show? No? Then you can't talk either, if that's the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the bar is you don't know because you don't play in the NHL, that works two ways. Like, did I play juniors? No. Did I play at a little rink in Charlotte, 40 or 50 games? I did. But does that mean I know hockey? No. Does 30 years of watching it mean I know hockey? Yeah, probably a little bit, right? I've learned a few things over the years. So
every sport does that. I remember when they were forming the college football committee a few years ago, and I think this was even more egregious. It was like, whoa, there's going to be a woman on the committee, and the term was hand in the dirt. If you haven't had your hand in the dirt. Now, I will say, people go too far and be like, if you didn't have your hand in the dirt, you can't talk it, right? There's an element of we need all those voices in the room, right? Like, I wouldn't want to just I wouldn't think I was making great hockey decisions with 6 people in the room who didn't know how to ice skate, right? But absolutely, it doesn't mean that one person who has done their homework and been very diligent and followed the game for a long time or whatever can't have an opinion. And I always say this, to me, it sticks in my craw a little bit. I'm not a parent. I grew up as a camp counselor, so I worked with kids, I raised kids, and every now and then you'll hear the same thing of like, well, if you're not a parent, so you don't understand. And you want to be like, well, that works both ways. You are a parent, so you can only be like, you're biased by the fact that you can only know what it's like to have a kid. And like, it's great that you protect your kid, but like now your view is skewed to only see it that way. So somebody who's gone through juniors and all these things, they only know hockey through the lens of what you're told the hockey should be and what it's supposed to be. And what the, like you may not do like somebody like Tulski and be like, well, I'm not doing, if I had grown up my whole life told this was the only way to do hockey, I would probably do it that way. But since I haven't, I have the ability to say, well, hold on, let's at least try something else,
And to your point, and this encapsulates the national story that's being told about the Canes. Because what's the national media narrative right now? The Canes are boring. It's boring hockey. Playing near perfect defense. Playing defense better than any other team in the league is somehow boring to people who are quote unquote true hockey fans, like hockey aficionados, right? But what was the same story when Don Cherry before he got fired? They're a bunch of jerks. They're too fun. What? Are we boring or are we too fun? You can't have it both ways because the team's identity has not changed. Yeah. So are we boring or are we too fun? Yeah. Which one is it? Pick a narrative that you don't like. Just say you don't like us. Just say, I don't like the Carolina Hurricanes because they make me look bad because they play hockey in a style that can win championships. And my team doesn't do that, and I don't like it. Just say that because we're either boring or we're too fun. You can't have it both ways.
I love we just got Ray's bunch of jerks background. To me, that is one of the that season. There should be a 30 for 30 on that first season of Rod, and I mean basically the whole new regime, right? And I'll be honest with you, when I look back and see not just storm surges, we were literally doing like skits after the
they were so fun,
dunking, boxing, and I look at it now. And I cringe a little bit. I now that we're a team like, hey, we're competing for Stanley Cup championships. I absolutely see it a little bit through the lens of the rest of the hockey world of like, yo, you guys are mad corny. You guys are super corny. And that year was corny. But they don't know what we know what we were going through, right? That was not only a new regime being like, we're going to win hockey. That was 10 years in the desert of no playoffs. And it was truly like, not only do we have a regime we think is good, we are like winning the fans back over. And it had to go hand in hand. Like they had to be winning or it wouldn't have worked. They wouldn't have kept doing it, right? You can't be that corny if you're losing. But so I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's why people think it was kind of cringy. Because I see like, Svechnikov as a rookie, like skating on his butt, doing bowling. You're like, oh my gosh. But that's again why like fanship and location matters. Like you had to be there. You had to understand what it felt like, this release of Canes fans being like, yeah, the Canes, it almost felt like a minor league attraction. It had been, I could pay $20 and sit in the third row on a Tuesday night and see, the best other team in the league across us. And we're going to lose 2-1 and Justin Falk's decent and Eric Stahl's still kind of fun. Right. But like it was, those skits were about reminding people, hey, this is really cool. This is fun. We're here. And you can't plan winning, right? But it all worked out very perfectly where they won enough to justify doing what they did. And then rightly, they were like, okay, we're going to kind of, now that we've got the fans back on because we're winning, we're going to curve the corny stuff a little bit. But even like keeping the storm surge, I feel for the players who have to have Tom Wilson look at it and be like, you guys still do the corny stuff? But those dudes know. And there's probably 3 or 4 guys who weren't there 6 years ago and have to be told by people like Justin Williams who say, hey, man, I'm about, I assume I could cuss on this podcast. Like, I am about that life. I am here for game 7. I'll fight if I need to. I'll score. I'll do whatever. Like, but this is important, and this is what it takes to make hockey stick in Raleigh. And so it was super cool.
And to that point, I think, honestly, I've thought about this a lot. I think they did that almost as much for themselves. I think Jay Willie did that almost as much for the boys in the locker room as the fans, because it clearly is fan-centric. But after 9 years, like you said, in the desert, I think second led Ted Lasso reference for the episode. Jay Willie was like, this is a sport. Like, you grew up loving to play this game. Like let's do something fun. Let's make this about having fun and just being ourselves. And if it makes the rest of the league mad, who cares? You're not playing for them. You're playing for the boys in the locker room. You're playing for the 18, 19,000 in attendance. So I'm with you. I'm one of the people who at this point is like, if you want to stop the surge, fine. I don't think they will, but it served its purpose. And some of the fans still love it. Some of the fans are kind of indifferent to it at this point, which is fine. As long as the guys want to do it, I think they should do it. But if the team is ever like, okay, this is kind of hokey or whatever, like, fine to stop, right? It's served its purpose. Like you said, it got the fans energized. It made Don Cherry furious. Always a good day in my book. So,
yeah.
At some point, one of the things to kind of move us along a little bit, I guess, because we could probably talk all day.
We could.
Leafs Panthers, right? I don't care which team we face. I honestly think this Hurricanes team can beat either of them. I'm not going to say will. I'm going to say can, but I think either of them. I want to play Toronto, mostly because if you beat the Panthers, you beat the defending Stanley Cup champions. That's a story. If you beat Toronto, I don't care how much you're a hater, Steve Levy, PK Subban. No matter how much you hate this team, you're going to have to go, okay, they're good. I don't want to admit it, but they just beat the Maple Leafs. The entire hockey world will be watching. And if it's Florida, most of the hockey world will be watching. But if it's Toronto, everybody's tuning into that one. All of Canada is tuning into that one.
Yeah.
And I would love to get that attention, just to see people, and I'm picking on Steve Levy in particular here, who is a known Kane hater, huge Whaler guy. Jersey in 5, I think it was. Caps in 5, I believe it was. Like, I want to hear him go, yeah, they're good. I hate them, but they're good. What do you want me to tell you?
That's not gonna happen. I don't see it happening.
He'll be like, that.
And again, and that
the Leafs lost.
Yeah, and that goes back to and of course that goes back to the whole he was a fan of laundry. As Jerry Seinfeld said, he was a fan of laundry because it was the same team. Like, we don't have to go through the whole, aspect of why the team moved or whatever, but it was all the same players. And to decide not to cheer and to hate the same players that you cheered your butt off just months ago, it makes no sense. And frankly, as far as the guys like Subban and everyone who picks against us, keep doing it.
Yeah,
keep
never
doing it. Keep underestimating. Keep saying that we're boring. Keep being derogatory in my mind, because you know what? Boring to win. Winning all the time is boring, isn't it? And
if they win a cup playing boring hockey, I'm gonna make some sure.
And that's the craziest thing. It's not boring. You know what? It's gonna bring me back a little bit. A lot of people suggest that it's just a different form of the left wing lock. And if you recall how much that type of defense messed up the neutral zone, that's what playing man-to-man does. It makes not the neutral zone a terrible place to be. The Hurricanes make everywhere a place to be on the ice. And that's what you want. You want a team that is, I'm sorry, you might have better players on your team, statistically, you might have more exciting players, but you do not have players who work harder. And to me, that is everything. Give me the whole lineup who will go through the boards, not for their coach, but just for the team. Like, that's what I want.
And to anybody who thinks that what the Hurricanes do is equivalent to the left wing lock, that's one of those, like, tell me you don't really know hockey without telling me. Because, like you said, the left wing lock was about basically stopping everything in the neutral zone. And when you had like a Carolina versus New Jersey series where they're both doing it, it was boring in lots of 1-0, 2-1 games.
Yeah.
The Hurricanes don't do that because the Hurricanes don't let you out of your own end.
No.
Like, you can't get to the neutral zone. How are you going to do a left wing lock? You can't leave your own end. Like you could say, oh, like they're just pushing it up. The Hurricanes are relentless. The Hurricanes' whole vibe is, in Hot Garbage Sports, who we've started watching lately, who's done some excellent analysis on YouTube and has been he's critical when he needs to be, but he's been very complimentary of the way the Canes play. He seems to really know his X's and O's. His theory is if you don't have the puck, you're on defense. And that means if you dump the puck in and you're going after it on the forecheck, you're on defense, right? Forechecking is a defensive situation. And I like that because that's the way the Hurricanes seem to approach it. We don't have the puck. We are tenaciously going to get the puck. And if your top line spends 45 seconds in your zone, even if you get it out, we've done our job because now your first line has to come off the ice because they're gassed and you got to put up somebody who's not, potentially as good, right? That's the whole, they're going, like you said, right? They're going to outwork you. In one of his videos, the Hot Garbage Sports guy said, he was talking about their tenacity. He was talking about how they don't need the best players. Like, they don't need Mikko Rantanen. They need the right players. Logan Stankoven fits the system perfectly. Taylor Hall fits perfectly. And I replied and said, oh, like in Shoresy, what do you think? We got, 3 friggin' Rod Brindamores here?
Yeah.
And I said, they don't. They have 20 Rod Brindamores. And he was like, that's exactly, like, that's the take. They have 20 Rod Brindamores who are going to go out there and give you everything they have in the tank to play the system in the way that it's designed. And the whole boring thing, they put up 4 and 5 goals repeatedly against both Washington and New Jersey. And if their defense is smothering for you and you can't hang with it, get better.
Yeah.
I really don't know what to tell you. If your offense can't score against the Hurricanes, get better. Figure it out.
The boring thing for me is definitely an ignorance is bliss. Like, I don't, when you say the left wing lock, no idea what you're talking about. Zero. I'm like, man, I thought I knew hockey. I know, I know the neutral zone. I know most of the things you refer to, but when we get into deep strategy, I'm like, nope, don't know it. So like that I talked about the difference between, like, I know when they call interference, what they've called or whatever, but I don't know the subtlety to be like, well, that was or wasn't interference. I can see the effort that the Hurricanes put in versus the other team. I can't see the things that are going into why somebody else is calling them boring, right? Like, it's ignorance is bliss for me. I'm like, I don't know, we won, like, truly, I'm not out here trying to be funny. I'm like, I don't know. And to your point, I'm like, we don't win every game 1-0. Like, I'm pretty sure we scored 3 and 4 and like 5 one time. And so it's like, I don't know. Yeah. But I will say,
I don't think you don't get it. I think that you do get it. The boring thing is fictitious. I think you do get it.
And then, but the part I like is, like, yes, I'd rather some other term be attached to us besides boring, but just like, hey, stop me if you've heard this before. I'm going to make a college basketball analogy, but like, I know enough about basketball to decry what Tony Bennett and UVA and those guys were doing as like a little bit more boring, that becomes like a thing. But when they had the right players, even though they're Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome's now, and the Cavs just got pushed out, but Ty Jerome was a top 8 player for the best team in the NBA all season, right? But when you have the right players, good enough to still compete with the best players, but also disciplined enough to run your system, it's going to look pretty. Like, we talk about UVA as being boring. Go back and look that year. They scored like 75 points a game. They were not boring. They had a great offense. People were still harping on the things that they had been saying years earlier. To me, but what is happening is people are talking about UVA and have a brand with them. Now it's chiding, it's dismissive, calling it boring, but like I care less about you calling the Hurricanes boring. I'm more like, all of y'all are talking about the Hurricanes, and if you're saying the same word, it means like there's a branding to it. I don't agree with it, but at least we know that you're all like, you guys are talking about this at the bar. You're like, man, yeah, this sucks, right? Yeah. So then you come on TV and call it boring. I know you've at least been talking about us, and I can come away satisfied by that.
And don't worry about ever having to reference college basketball to this, because I do it all the time.
Okay, good.
We do it all the time when we're mostly when we're bemoaning our power play. That's usually when we bring up, basketball and so forth. But so don't worry about that.
I think power play is a little four corners, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot.
For our listeners. That's a new. That's an old reference too.
I like it. Ray, do you have an opponent preference for next round? First of all, I want to go on the record as saying that this is just for podcast purposes. None of us would actually jinx things by saying we want one team or the other, because that's how things get bad.
Yeah, superstition is real. So I like it. I mean, I take it to stupid stition. It's funny that he asks me that one first, because here in my own house, in my family, but in my own house, I have a preference on who we play, if only because I don't want my home to become ground zero of the biggest civil war in marital history. My wife is a huge Leafs fan, born the day of or the day after. Or sorry, no, it was the day before. Born the day before the Leafs won the Stanley Cup the last time.
Wow.
And so
she's the jinx.
Well,
I was like, you just threw her age out there,
you
man.
you said it. I didn't. I'm not taking that heat. That's but I think just like it was in 2006 when we won it all, I thrived in being the guy that cheered for, that wasn't like the rest of the Canadians, who was cheering for Carolina, who was actually working for the Edmonton Oilers at the time. In a distant.
You notice he no longer works for the Edmonton Oilers, though.
Yeah, that's exactly it. To me, if you want, I think we would do better against the Leafs. The Leafs have a strong lineup with a lot of great players, but that's why they said we wouldn't beat the Caps, because the Caps had more talent, more whatever. And the Hurricanes just grind you down. They're healthier. Nyes, a little bit hurt in the last game, wasn't moving as well. We won't know how bad it is for him, but and I mean, there's the whole revenge for Freddie. Freddie's been, he wants revenge for that. He was treated terribly in Toronto, blamed for so much when there was so much wrong with that team. Like, you can't lay the blame at the feet of just one player. It's not, you're not playing tennis. You're not, it's a whole team out there. And to lay it at his feet is it's just ridiculous. And now he's healthy, and he is, by a mile, statistically speaking, the best goaltender in the playoffs. And it is not close, not with anyone. And that says something to who he is, who he's always been, But he goes to Toronto where the spotlight is so intense, where it's so much. And when the teams lose, they look to lay the blame at the feet of someone, something. And it was just easiest to blame the goaltender.
I definitely, yeah. I'm not going too far down the road, so don't take that. But if we, in a month from now, when if the Canes happen to be wrapping up a Stanley Cup final, if we're listing like players you'd be most happy for in that sense, Anderson is definitely near the top after everything he's been through. You think about, who on the Canes you want hoisting the cup, whatever. Anderson would be probably in my top 5, maybe even 3 of people that I'd be most happy for.
Yeah,
so
without question.
I'm the same way. I don't want to jinx anything. I'm not going to claim, we would do better against one team versus the other. None of that. But from the casual, I'll represent the casual, and I'll also represent my own self-interest. I'll tell that in a second. But Marchand scares me as much as I want to beat him. I'm scarred by him. I still remember him pulling Justin Williams' chin strap off, and I'm like, damn it, this guy owns us. So I'm still scared of him and the Panthers and Paul Maurice. They just scare me in general. But putting that aside, totally from a selfish standpoint, I don't know if anybody in Miami gives a crap about what I put on my marquee on the Rialto. I'm pretty sure I could get some run in Canada. I've got a committee to be like that. I could be on the front page of the Toronto Star if I get the right. If the series is long enough, I get the right chirp. Miami, they don't care. It's beach season. Well, it's beach season year round, but they do not care. So solely from a selfish standpoint, I'm like, people in Canada will be very mad and reshare a great chirp on the Rialto marquee. People in Florida are probably like, yeah, we don't care. We'll win, and we're not even going to share. We won't even hate share your smack talk. So, Toronto, they won't be ready for it. All because you can make Toronto jokes, you can make Canada team not winning jokes. I mean, it's wide open there. So in that instant, for that reason specifically, I wouldn't hate seeing Toronto being the next.
I don't blame you, and you can't even the way you picture it.
No, I know.
It's not enough.
I know.
It's not enough. I mean, it's just it would be just amazing.
You would get so much hate mail.
It would be, yeah. I mean, and you'll want to keep them all. You'll want to keep them all because there'll be some of them will be really quite funny. Yeah, exactly. Their game 7 tonight is massive. I can't even, the fact that they got pummeled in game 5. There was a lot of fans throwing jerseys on the ice, people leaving and so forth. It was just, that's the type of passion that is in Toronto, is in all of Canada, because they're not the only ones who have thrown jerseys on the ice. I mean, it's happened everywhere, which makes no sense to me. But yeah, Brad, jump in, because
I'm laughing because it just hit me. If the Leafs win tonight, the dude who threw the jersey is gonna be like, man, I'm out $300.
Yeah. Yeah,
you got to pay for your protest, man.
Throw a hat. Throw a program. Throw your beer on. I mean, don't throw anything on the ice.
Don't throw
your jersey on the ice, man. And even if it's like a DH Gate knockoff, I mean, that's still like $60, dude.
Yeah, that's, you know what? I've never understood that, but the Leafs, this is, the biggest game in most people's lifetime for a lot of these fans. And you'll see it in the outside the building. They will jam pack, shoulder to shoulder, thousands of Leafs fans ready to just explode. And I won't say that they'd riot, but because that's saved for Vancouver and Montreal. But yeah, jump in, Brad, because I know.
Is this the biggest Toronto Maple Leafs game since the 2002 Eastern Conference Finals? In which Mark Hangelna rips one in OT to send them packing in game 7.
In the Eastern Conference Final. It was and a great stat that some people don't know about or have maybe forgotten. The 2002 Eastern Conference Final, I believe every game was decided by a single goal, but it is the lowest scoring Eastern Conference Final in the history of the NHL. The lowest scoring.
That was game 6, not 7.
Yeah.
And game 4, the Hurricanes won 3-0. The other games were 2-1, 1-2, 2-1, 1-0, 2-1. And
there were 2 of them in overtime, 3 of them in overtime. I can't recall, but
2 games 2 and Hurricanes won, and then game 6 in which once again Marty Jelena with that big grin and the missing tooth comes through, bing bang boom, Toronto's going home.
Yep. And so that was devastating, and especially since everyone looked at the Hurricanes the same way. They looked at the Hurricanes the same way. This is Toronto. Finally, we have an opponent that we know we can beat. And it just wasn't. It just wasn't to be. And
I will say, regardless of who we play this time, they're only getting a day of rest. So Eastern Conference Finals start Tuesday.
Yep.
That bodes well for the Hurricanes. Chatfield and Orlov did not practice today. Great. Rest them. Rest everybody.
And rested, the more rest we get, I feel like the more we can stick with one goalie. I think that's huge, right? Anderson having to play these 6 and 7 game series, and if he only has to play 20 games to get all the way to the end instead of 28, I think that's huge, right? And
it is
that we are not a 2 goalie team right now, right? We are a 1 goalie team, and we don't want that.
He's a man on a mission.
We don't want to. I'm not saying we might not ever have to play one other guy, but the way it's working out now, I think rest is in our favor. Some people are like, "Oh, I don't want a week off." I think we did fine with the rest between round 1 and round 2. I'm like, give me the rest, get the dudes healthy, have Freddie play fewer games. I'm all for it.
Freddie Anderson right now is John Wick. He is Liam Neeson in Taken 1, 2, 3, 7, however many of those. 18. He looks like a dude who is ready to go out there and put all of the controversy to bed. But I love it.
But if we play the Panthers, their game plan is going to be, I don't know what 1, 2, and 3 is going to be, but somewhere in there is going to be rush him, hit him, knock him out. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And
so that's the fewer games he has to endure even before getting to that series. And, that's better. So keep him in bubble wrap. I'm not saying he's fragile, but keep him happy, keep him healthy, whatever we need to do. Let's keep getting the good Fred Anderson.
Brad, Hayes says he doesn't know anything about the hockey and stuff, and what are you talking about here?
There's only 8 teams left. It's easy to repeat other talking points that I hear now. So
no.
I'm done as a hockey fan right now.
Real quick before we wrap up, Edmonton and Dallas out west, 2 high-power offenses, one of which has a good goaltender, and one of which has a lucky goaltender, for lack of a better, but an improved defense over years past.
Yep.
The league is going to love the West Coast. That's why ESPN took the West Coast game. We got moved to TNT because ESPN gets first crack. They wanted the West Coast game because they're going to be high scoring.
Well,
AKA not boring hockey. I would say it is kind of boring hockey because it'd be nice if your goaltenders and defense knew how to play, hockey. But I really think this is going to be a barn burner. I don't know who to pick. I think Dallas has the better goaltending, and I think that gives them the edge because Draisaitl and McDavid versus, Rantanen and Hintz and all those guys. I mean, top talent. Whoever comes out of the West is going to be hard to beat. I mean, it's
a handful.
I will say that the Hurricanes are capable of beating either of those teams because, if you're going to beat the Hurricanes, you need to roll 4 lines that can produce. And I don't know, Edmonton can't. Dallas would match up better for Dallas, I think. But I'm really looking forward to this because I don't know who's going to win this one. I think it's Dallas, but it's the thinnest of margins for me. What's up, Ray?
I'm gonna push back just a little bit about the Oilers because the thing about the Oilers this time around, and I think it's because of what they learned through last season's playoffs, is that it's something that the Hurricanes do inherently. And so it's old hat to us, but it's something that the Oilers haven't been able to do for a long time. And that is get production up and down the lineup. They're getting points from everywhere. And that is the difference this year. That is why they were able to reverse sweep the Kings. That is why they were able to send the Golden Knights home packing. And as far as the goaltender goes, Skinner, who was horrendous at the start, lost his position to Pickard, the backup guy, who was integral to them winning, is now suddenly starting to play like the all-star he was when he was picked as an all-star. So they're actually, they've got their poop in a group. And so now it's a matter of, is Dallas injury-wise difference? Heiskanen played last night and was sensational. Having him back in the lineup is massive, massive. And you are right. If you were to pick a goaltender, Ottinger or Skinner or Pickard, it's Ottinger. And there's not even not a half second of doubt about selecting that. Dallas, you and I, Brad, have both wanted that. The Finnish men's, inter-squad game.
Yeah.
Really is what that becomes. And it would be great. I would love a chance to make Mikko Rantanen eat it so badly. I want it just for that. And we've had Dallas fans join us on the show here not even 3 weeks ago. And I don't want to put her at odds. That would be tough. She says it would be great because it doesn't matter who wins. I love both teams. And if I'm to pick, I would want Dallas to win. The problem is it's wishing a more difficult team to take down. Yeah. Because the Oilers is a team that, again, best players, best forwards in the world. No one better. We have Jacob Slavin, who is the best defender. And quick note to Washington's coach. One of the first things he said after that series was, I don't understand why Jacob Slavin is not in for the Norris Trophy every year. We don't either. We don't understand why he's not there. I mean, we know why, because they only think of the offensive aspect of it. But there is no better defensive defenseman in the world than Jacob Slavin. No one. And that goes against, what our previous guest had said, because they have someone who plays a very similar game. So do I want Dallas to win for the Finns? Yes, plus it gives us a chance for revenge at Miko. And the fans will be just brutal on him. Like, you think Holla, the hate for Holla is bad. You wait. And the story is richer, right? Hayes, you love the theater of it. Think about it. Miko comes back. Stankoven's playing against his guy. Yes. Like, that's theater. That's excitement.
There were dudes, I mean, guys like Stahl and Aho, probably genuinely did the right teammate thing of like, guys been traded here. Let's do everything we can to bring them in. You get the sense probably starting in the locker room, those guys knew where it was going, right? It looked like it on the ice of like, hey, this looks like a situation where, but even if Jordan Stahl is thinking, I don't think this guy wants to be here, he's still turning around being like, hey man, come on, like trying to get you on the team. So that weird human thing of like, you were fake. I'm not saying fake because you were doing the right thing to try and welcome and be nice to this person. That now you can admit, like, wait, we didn't like the way you handled it, and like having that whole thing hang over that series. I just as a disclaimer to the hockey gods and sports gods, we just because this is a podcast, take nothing out of the fact that we are talking about potential opponents after a series that we haven't even played yet. So like, don't punish us for that. But I was just going to say, and you already said it, I came into this saying I like sports as theater. There would be no better theater than Rantanen versus the Canes in the year that he got traded to the team, demanded out. I mean, I can't think of that in any other sports situation of a guy getting traded in season and a month later getting traded out. Put on top of it how great a player he is, put on top of it now what he's doing in the playoffs. That would just be the ultimate theater to have those two. And again, like I said, Stankoven as a casualty in that, right? Just a secondary of like, an awesome kid who now is going against his old team. And fans don't hate him. They love him because they know he didn't choose it, right? It'll be crazy if we get through whoever we play in the next round. Like, I'm so worried now. We've killed it.
No. This is like watching Andor and wondering what's going to happen at the end of season 2.
We're allowed to do this. Yeah, we're not talking to the media. We're not players. We're not. I don't know if you saw the when Toronto, their fans were like, "We want the Canes," and the security guy they pinned over, he was like, "Y'all don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this."
Yeah. So last year they were chanting, "We want Florida."
I know. Well, I'm that guy. Like in real life, publicly, I am like, we're not talking about who we might play as next. Like the only thing that I will promise is that the Canes will be in the Eastern Conference Finals. That is assured. I feel confident saying that. Beyond that, we're just having fun.
I will say, if you go Canes Oilers, the rematch of 06.
Oh, there
are good storylines to be had in either series if that were to come to fruition, right? I mean, because Ray and I have said the Oilers fans that came down to Raleigh, I've said, were phenomenal. Like, I didn't meet a single person who wasn't, pleasant and like, hey, y'all have a great team and congratulations.
Just real quick on the flip, and I hope this happens if we end up playing Toronto too. They go away saying the same thing about us, right? Usually that's one of the chances where we can be like, hey, come down here and see what it's all about. And when these Canadian fans do, they have a harder time going back and being like, Carolina, can't believe there's a hockey team there. They go away and be like, damn, that's pretty cool. That's not how we do it, but that's pretty damn cool how they do it.
I promo Raleigh all the time. You haven't experienced hockey in a better way than you do in going to Raleigh. And I get laughed at, and I'm like, come on, you want to see them in Toronto and you want to go to, Montreal, blah, blah, blah. No, you want to see them in Raleigh because it's the whole experience, and you find out for yourself that it's a hockey town.
Having been to Toronto this year, Ray, I think we can, and we lost, but I would say our in-game experience was phenomenal.
Yeah, no question.
But what did we do pregame? Because Scotiabank's right in the middle of the city, and our hotel was 50 yards away, right?
Yeah.
We met up, we walked around a little bit, but it's not like the experience of the whole start to finish, as amazing as it was, and we were treated by Beth to phenomenal seats and food and everything. We weren't just like show up and go up to the 300s. You compare that to parking lots open at noon, grills are going by 12:05. People are just hanging out for 7 hours, and then the building is full to watch warm-ups. Like it's just not the same experience.
It isn't. And you try to explain that to some Canadians, and it's like, it's almost as though the tailgating is as unpleasant as the storm surge. Like they just don't understand.
Until
they
you
just don't
experience it, you don't know.
until you feel it. Go and see it. It is as an atheist, you know what? Raleigh is my holy land. And that trip was the trips that I've made down there that were pilgrimages, and they were glorious every single time. And I'm like, why aren't more people doing this? Like, just why aren't more people experiencing this? And the people that crack on the team, the people that crack on the area, that they're talking out of their butts. They haven't been. Just don't.
You can tell people that have been, because they'll be like, I don't like Carolina, but
they know how to do it right. They know how to do it right.
Whew, what a day.
It's been great. But you know what? Before we go, we've got 3 things to do before we go. The first, I have to turn the mic over to you, Brad. You've been especially happy
I'm jubilant, sir.
For non-hockey reasons, but it's all yours. And I'm so happy for you.
I think I saved it pretty much all till the end. I think I'm patting myself on the back.
You should.
Crystal Palace, right? Literally the Hurricanes of the English Premier League soccer.
Yeah.
Won the FA Cup yesterday against Man City, who is basically the Maple Leafs or the Oilers.
Yeah.
They got a clean sheet, which means they won 1-0. And they did it if you're a Hurricanes fan who dabbles in soccer or is like, maybe I want to watch some soccer, I'm just telling you, tune into Crystal Palace. They are the Hurricanes of that league. Man City possessed the ball 80% of the time, which is not Hurricanes-esque. However, when they had the ball, they attack and they come right at you. They basically, in soccer, the reason the other team has the ball so much is because they play near perfect defense.
Yeah.
And in soccer, the goal, where there's the Hurricanes forecheck because they always want the puck, Palace's whole premise is built on, no, you keep the ball because you're not going to score, but we can't make a mistake if we don't have the ball. And then when you turn it over, we're going to attack and we're going to score. Out of 5 rounds of competition, they gave up 1 goal to Millwall total.
That's unbelievable.
So, I'm sorry, 6 rounds. They had 5 clean sheets. They had 5 games where they did not give up a single goal.
Jeez.
Perfect team defense, with the exception of 1 goal to Millwall. Phenomenal effort. Crystal Palace is over 120 years old. They're one of the earliest soccer clubs in England. They are a small-time, family-centric, medium to low budget group. And they just took on, like I said, the Leafs. Boom, 1-0. They're hosting the trophy. They get to play in Europe next year. It is huge for the fans. So I do know we have a few Crystal Palace supporters who listen to us who don't really know hockey, but they just know that I'm a fan of both. So I can't help myself, but huge shout out to those boys.
If the Canes only give up 1 goal through 5 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, I like our chances.
See, and he said he didn't know hockey, man.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. That's another thing that about the Hurricanes. With 5 games, they gave up so few goals, and it just punctuated how great the defense was. And I cannot get over Ted Lasso, Richmond, based on Crystal Palace, based on loosely Crystal Palace taking on Man City in the final.
Right. Right.
What?
They did 2 episodes about it. I mean,
Yeah.
but with the right result this time.
Exactly.
Reality
The
got
result.
it right. TV got it wrong.
Congratulations, Brad. I love it when
Thank
fans can celebrate championships. Everyone deserves that kind of joy, especially in sports. Everyone deserves that.
Let's make it the year of Brad and just keep his sports teams winning. How about
Yes,
Yes, I like
I'm
that.
all about that.
I like the year of Brad.
That's what we'll call it. That's
Make it
what the
so.
Canes should call it, the year of Brad. The second thing that we have to do is thank an amazing guest. Hayes, I can't even look. I don't have any history with the Rialto. Never been there. I mean, I've seen the memes and the signs that just tickled me to death. I mean, they're amazing. I saw the videos of inside when the Canes won. I've seen all of that. And your perspective, that's another one that will make this one of my favorite episodes. I like seeing the sport through other people's eyes, through other people's interpretations. And you really brought it today. You sell yourself short as far as knowing the sport. You sell yourself short. Please don't. You've been an amazing guest. And yeah, the storm cellar's door is always open for you.
Absolutely.
May you always come back. We'd love to have you back because
Appreciate you, man.
you're big fan, and that's what we love. It's what we do.
If you're ever in town, if we're ever in town in Raleigh, Ray, and Rocky Horror's playing that weekend, because I think you guys do it like every other week. I think Hayes.
Yep.
I want to take you to Rocky Horror.
I'm in.
You're not a true Raleighite. Raleigh, I don't even know what people from Raleigh call themselves anymore. We never Raleighite until you've seen Rocky Horror at the Rialto on a Friday at midnight.
Yep.
That would be sensational. It's like going to Newfoundland and being screeched in. You know what I mean? You gotta kiss the cod and have the drink and stuff. Yeah, just sensational. Love the episode. Enjoy Game 7 tonight. The theater, it's going to be amazing. You want to see? I mean, I'm setting this up. I don't believe you're going to see another Game 5. I just don't. What you're going to see is two teams giving it their all and emptying the tank, and that'll be great because then,
I assume you mean we'll see a Game 5, but we probably will also see a 6 and a 7.
Yeah.
No, he means you won't see a Game 7 performance like we saw in Game 5 where one team blows the other out. I think is what he was saying.
Good.
Plug the Rialto, Hayes. Plug what you're doing, man, because I assume we're going to maybe see some more watch parties. We're definitely going to keep our lookout for some new signage. How do people find you?
Yeah, therialto.com. I did put something up new last night. I feel like at this point, I don't put everything all over social media, but I think right now it says Rod Brindamore go to prom with me on the Rialto marquee. It's prom weekend around here, so I jumped on that. And then, we will. I got people all up in my mentions in my DMs now saying, like, when are you doing another one? When are you doing another one? As you guys know, it's tough to plan around. Like a month ago, when we're setting our schedule of what we're doing, we can't leave all of May and June open for potential Canes games. But the good thing is we didn't have much planned for Memorial Day weekend. So I'm really hoping, if it's Toronto, we start on the road. If it's Florida, we start at home, correct?
Right. So we know the days, but not the cities yet. So
so like that's going to matter. But either way, we should get one of the first 4 games. We should get at least one watch party at the Rialto, and hopefully the atmosphere will be just good. Can't beat Lenovo Center, but there's that same effect of just like turn inside, like whether you know the person or not, when you're in there and you're like, you score.
Yeah, you're going nuts. Check them out. Check them out.
Absolutely.
So, therialto.com, at the.rialto on Instagram. Always open for marquee suggestions from you guys if you got anything. 25 characters is about our max, so sometimes we get a little creative. The neighborhood's 5 point, Ovechkin 1 point was a great one, but then I had to learn how to make colons. I had to go cut some circles out to put colons on the marquee, but it was worth it for a good one. So if you guys have some good suggestions, shoot them my way, or your audience, shoot them my way.
Yeah. The Caniacs, I'm sure we'll have some ideas.
Absolutely. With all of that said, Brad, there really is only one thing left to do. Number three. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.